Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. Thank you so much for joining me today. And when we come back, the latest on the NATO summit and a few other matters that I think you're going to like.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station. Like it as much as you can. Smash that like button because we beat YouTube suppression. And believe me, YouTube suppression is alive and well. And so is Trudeau's censorship, and it's getting worse, but we're fighting back thanks to people like you who care. I don't want to get into Bill C-63 right now because that's for another day, and I'll be talking about that tomorrow with a special guest who I will mention in a second. But a lot of Canadians have not been paying attention to what Bill C-63 is all about. Fortunately, there has been a lot of interest since Pierre Poilievre said he would be repealing any such bill if it became law, not just because it's a odious censorship piece of legislation, but it's going to create $200 million in extra bureaucracy. Just what we need, right, in this country? Trudeau's hired more civil servants, more government employees than any other prime minister, and he wants to hire more, 300 more, to watch you, to create a secret police, essentially. Well, you might say it's not so secret, but it's going to be a thought police. Your thoughts should be secret. He wants to create a thought police to go after you, and that's going to cost $201 million over 5 years, and that's just the beginning. So I'm going to try to put up some of your comments today, and we'll be talking about a number of issues. But I want to go back to good old NATO here, and this is just amazing me how we continue to allow this to happen here. So guess who's accompanying Justin Trudeau to the NATO conference in Washington, D.C.? His good friend, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. Now, I'm just going to read through the press release here that came out today. The Honorable Melanie Joly, Minister of Foreign Affairs, announced today that she will participate in the 75th anniversary summit of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in Washington, D.C. from July 9th to 11th, 2024, alongside Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Honorable Bill Blair, Minister of National Defense. At the summit, Minister Joly will underscore Canada's steadfast support for the alliance and enduring commitment to the transatlantic bond as demonstrated by Canada's ongoing contributions to the security of the Euro-Atlantic area. She will also reaffirm Canada's commitment to its leadership role as the framework nation for the NATO multinational battle group, Latvia. Blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you with some certainty that Melanie Joly is not qualified to be a travel agent, let alone foreign affairs minister. She's way out of her depth. She didn't even know, by the way, this is supposed to be Canada's other representative at the NATO summit, that there were Canadian Navy ships in Cuba. And she didn't even know they were there. Bill Blair apparently didn't know why they were there. So what a clown show this is. They were there to help Havana have a huge cabana fest. Nothing to do with monitoring the Soviets or the Russians, because this government still thinks it's the Soviet Union. That's the joke. The Biden administration still thinks Russia's the Soviet Union. They still think it's the USSR. They talk about Russia that way. Like it's worse today than it was when it was communist. It's worse today than it was under Joseph Stalin. They really seem to believe that, or at least that's the message they're pushing so they can keep spending your money on Ukraine, billions of dollars going to Ukraine. I know I've been harping about this. And meanwhile, what's happening to our national defense in the meantime? It's going to hell. And thank God somebody has spoken up about this. People's Party of Canada leader, Maxime Bernier, an old friend of mine. It's the only politician I know of who's actually said the new chief of defense staff, the incoming chief of defense staff, this Kerrigan, Lieutenant General Kerrigan, who will of course be promoted to full general upon assumption of her new duties. Maxime Bernier is the only person I know in the political sphere who has said she is a woke choice obsessed with gender identity nonsense. Didn't hear a word from Pierre Poilievre about that or the Conservative Party Canada. No. We did hear about one conservative from Peterborough, a conservative MP, who decided to say the police were doing a wonderful job in Peterborough by arresting a man who burnt a pride flag. Thank you very much, Michelle Ferrari, for that. We really appreciate that. All the work we did in June to stop the pride flag nonsense in the schools, and you've got to go to bat for the pride flag. Thank you, Michelle Ferrari, for doing that. I'm sorry, that's not the sort of thing we expect from a conservative MP who's supposed to believe in free speech. Look, I don't go around tearing down pride flags and burning them. I don't go around saying nasty things about it. I say it's not something I want children associated with. I don't want it in my schools. I don't want it on my government buildings. I don't want to be forced to donate money to the LGBTQ cause. That's my decision not to. I thought Pierre Poilievre believed in a mind your own business government. Maybe that's what you should be standing for, Michelle Ferrari. So I'm not going to get into that any further, but I had to say that because I was furious when I read that this morning. I was just furious. But Maxine will be on the show tomorrow. I can't decide whether we're doing it live or not, but I'm interviewing Maxime at 10. We might do it live, but this is going to be a great interview. I know a lot of you say you never talk to Maxime. I love talking to Maxime. He's got the guts to talk, say things, to call things as they are. And I've always admired him for that. And we're going to be talking about the armed forces. We're going to be talking about Bill C-63. And we're going to be talking about gender ideology and a number of other issues. And I'm very happy that Maxime's agreed to come on the show again. It's been far too long. And I said that to Maxime just yesterday. We need to talk about the important things. And I think he's always done that. So looking forward to doing that tomorrow. And of course, Maxime was also, I think, going to be talking about this ridiculous situation where the former defense minister Harjit Sajjan rescued Afghan Sikhs during the fall of Kabul before he rescued Canadians and translators. He made the Afghan Sikhs a priority. And God knows how many Canadians did not get rescued. At least 100, perhaps more, because of that stupid decision, political interference from a completely indifferent and incompetent minister who should resign immediately as the Minister of Emergency Preparedness. He's a clown. And it's time to get rid of this guy. But we will be talking about that tomorrow. Anyway, just threw that out there about the pride flag thing because I know all of you were supporting our efforts to get children to boycott the pride flag raising events in schools and to say no more of this. We're saying no more of this in Canada. That flag represents far too many spectra, far too many different ideas. that I can't probably even get into right now. But you know what I'm talking about. The flag represents a huge spectrum of sexual activity. I'll put it that way. It has expanded. And that little triangle in the flag, you know what that stands for. And it is ridiculous that people and conservative MPs are defending it. Anyway, I'm going to say no more about this. What is Justin Trudeau up to except going to NATO? Fascinating. Trudeau privately meets with supporters of home equity tax. That's what Trudeau's been up to. We thought this was just a rumor. We thought this was just something he was toying with like a year ago. But Trudeau's now seriously considering one of two things, possibly two: taxing you when you sell your home. God knows what that would be. What's it going to be? 50% tax? 25% tax when you sell your home? Because he's already got the capital gains tax in place, which is 67%. 2/3 of the capital gains goes to the government. That's called theft. That's called robbery. When the government steals your money, steals your investment, taxes you twice. Now he's considering taxing you if you just sell your home. What do you think that's going to do to the housing market? You want to sell your home if you know the government's going to take a huge piece of it? Of course not. He's also talking about an annual equity tax on people who own homes of $1 million or more. So every year you got to pay the government a piece of your house. That's what Justin Trudeau is. That's communism. Trudeau says you shouldn't have the right to decide where you live. If you're over, 55, 60, and you still live in a large house, Trudeau says you shouldn't be living in a large house. It's beyond your means. It's too big for you. You don't need it because you don't have kids living at home anymore. How does he know that? What an idiot. This guy has got to be stopped. Another article about this. Does Trudeau plan to put the squeeze on older homeowners? You bet he does. That's all that Trudeau knows how to do, is put the squeeze on people. But this is such incredibly bad leftist economics, taxing people for selling their homes, telling people they don't have a right to live in the size of home that they choose. I'll live where the hell I want. It's called Canada. It's called capitalism. It's called free enterprise. It's called democracy. Don't tell me where I can live, Trudeau. Get off this. Stop talking like a bloody Marxist and let Canadians live where they want and stop squeezing them for money. Everywhere you go, you just looking for ways to extract money from Canadians, to take more from them, to steal their income so you can invest it in your little projects. So there you go. This is what he's been up to. And there are decreasing demands to see exactly what he's up to. Is this a serious policy for the fall? Maybe it isn't. We never know what Justin Trudeau really wants to do until he's done it. He's a dangerous man. And here's the dangerous man with Melanie Joly as they headed off to another NATO summit. Thought you might enjoy that. There's a reason I called it a love-in at NATO. I won't elaborate on that. Just a reminder, too, about where Canada sits in terms of the NATO contributions. We're 29th out of 32. You see that little bar down there? That's Canada, just ahead of Spain, Belgium, and Luxembourg. That's kind of embarrassing, wouldn't you agree? I would say so. I would say so. Just showing a few more of your comments here. And we're going to go to some other information I have for you, which leads us to Joe Biden. Everything does, doesn't it? I've been saying now for 2 weeks in my columns in Human Events and in my presentations here stand on guard that I believe Joe Biden is finished. And I think this NATO summit in Washington is the last stand for Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, and the NATO alliance itself. NATO is not going to celebrate 100 years. It's not going to celebrate 80 years. I'll be surprised if it celebrates 76 years. It's destined to go down because it is an organization that is so anachronistic, so out of step with reality, so out of tune with where it needs to be to preserve the peace and to keep peace and prosperity throughout Europe and the world, that it has to go. I'm not the only one saying this. I used to write the talking points for NATO. I served with NATO, with the NATO standing force in Bosnia. I was a public affairs officer in the Air Force, and I wrote the talking points justifying NATO's existence, explaining the role in the former Yugoslavia, saying why the world still needed NATO after the Cold War. I don't believe it anymore because all it's doing is fomenting a war with Russia, which will be a nuclear war. NATO is an organization whose time has passed. It needs to just sink into the quicksand of history. Trough feeding, lots of trough feeding bureaucrats rich. That's all it's doing. Once an organization has ceased to have a real function, it inevitably will go out and try to find a new role or objective just to stay alive and keep the money running. Well, believe me, NATO works hand in hand with the military industrial complex to keep finding foreign wars that we can die in, that we can buy military equipment for, and they can enrich themselves off of. And NATO can continue as an organization. It's not containing communism anymore. The Soviet Union is dead. The Cold War has been over for 33 years. And NATO needs to remember that. It is time to move on. The organization is no longer relevant to the needs of the world today. So I don't think it's going to be around much longer, any more than I think Joe Biden is going to be running in the 2024 presidential race because his own party wants him out. I'm just going to show you a brief clip from this incredibly embarrassing interview with George Stephanopoulos, who, of course, is a good Democrat. He was in the Clinton administration. But he's had enough because he realizes Joe Biden can't do it. He's not going to be able to make it. And he's going to be absolutely eviscerated by former President Donald Trump in the November presidential election. Anybody with half a brain can see that.
Wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand that. And I understand that's why you want to stay in the race. But if you convince yourself that only you can defeat him,
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him, and I know how to get things done.
if you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes down and tells me that, I might do that.
The American public is not going to move away from me as a...
So, did we all hear that? If God comes down and tells Joe Biden, that's it, Joe Biden's going to throw in the towel, not before. That is the height of egotism, the height of narcissism, the height of delusion. Anyway, let's listen to the rest of it. It's just crazy. Here he is with Joe Scarborough, the so-called former Republican congressman from Florida, who is just has been nothing but a mouthpiece for Joe Biden.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot, just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me.
Who the hell does Joe Biden think he's been doing the bidding of for the last 4 years? The elites. That's who runs the Democratic Party. My God, these people like to just distort the language, distort reality when it suits them.
Convention.
Have you been tested for any age-related illnesses, pre-Parkinson's, or anything like that that might explain sort of having a night like that where you couldn't finish sentences?
Look, I had before, I was feeling so badly before the debate. When I came back, they tested me for, I thought maybe I had COVID, maybe there was something wrong. I had an infection or something. They tested me. They gave me those tests. I was clear. So, but look, I had a bad night. But the fact of the matter is, look at what I'm doing. I mean, let me put it this way. If there was something that was wrong that night, it's not like it comes and that's one night and goes away. That's why I've been out. I've been testing myself, been testing everywhere I go, going out and making the case.
It sounds like he's slurring his words. He can barely explain what he's taught. He's testing himself. How? How is he testing himself? By reading a teleprompter?
Night of that debate, I went out. I was out till 2 o'clock in the morning that very night. That very night, it drives me nuts.
Curious,
talking about
is that an allusion also to Donald Trump and the fact that Democrats, you believe, may now be doing the same thing that Donald Trump tried to do in 2020, and that is overthrow the popular will of Democratic voters?
Well, look, Joe, let me say it this way. The reason I've been out on the road so much all over the country, and while Trump is riding around in his golf cart, filling out his golf cart before he even hits the ball. But anyway, he hadn't been anywhere in 10 days. I've been all over.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. He's saying that Donald Trump is hiding. Actually, Donald Trump is leading rallies constantly. He's at rallies 3-4 times a week. He doesn't spend his life golfing. What does Joe Biden spend his time doing? Sleeping. Joe Biden is not even aware he's alive after 5 o'clock at night. He has about a 2 or 3 hour work schedule, which consists of him maybe reading a report or two and then going to sleep. This is embarrassing. Thought you might enjoy this again, though, because it really sums up how absurd politics has become for just about everybody.
Take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
Let's not act like children. All right, fellas, here we go. What a shot.
Beauty.
This is classic.
You think Biden can hit a ball like that? No. He couldn't get it past the first tee.
Yeah, he wouldn't get it off the lady.
Forget where he hit.
No.
Did he hate it? He went behind him.
Well, he sucks.
He should have shot it before on that one. I was on the carpet.
he's a good shot. He's a good shot.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, fantastic.
He kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so fucking bad. So,
I just can't imagine.
but can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man, a very tough guy. And they see him, they can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah, that's amazing.
You just keep knocking him out, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Just announced that he's probably quitting, and he probably is. And Kamala Harris will be almost as much fun in terms of somebody who's way out of their depth. Just like Melanie Jolie. She's kind of like the Melanie Jolie of the United States, Kamala Harris. Constant word salads, not up to speed, not able to do the job. So I'm going to leave it at that today, folks. I've gone on longer than I thought I was going to. Thanks for watching today. I really do appreciate it. And tomorrow, I'm going to say it again. I will have Maxime Bernier on. I don't promote any one political party above the others. Obviously, I'll never support the Liberals or the NDP. But I'll leave it up to you folks who you want to support in terms of small c conservatives, small l libertarians. And I am not carrying water for any party. And I'm not carrying water for any political leader. When they do things or their MPs do things that I disagree with, I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to say that is unacceptable. And you're not going to do that and get away with it with nobody questioning you or criticizing you. So I tried to get 3 conservative MPs on this show in the month of June, in the last month of Parliament sitting. The conservative communications section blocked every one of them from coming on my show. I'm not going to tell you who they are. But what we were talking about one of them earlier. But they were blocked from coming on this show because, once again, you've got the control from the top going on here. And I'm going to fight that. I don't care if it's Liberal or NDP. I'm going to fight that. And I'm looking forward to talking to Maxine tomorrow. Thanks for watching today, folks. I'll be back again tomorrow. God